I'm sure there are some people who have a whole different scale.
All right.
Are we live?
Ready whenever you are.
I'm sure you just walked out of it.
Oh, well, ready whenever Trudy is. Might be going to fetch. Oh. We're looking.
I have a new computer and I can tell you that it's not an error image of my old one.
No. Is it close?
Well, that's a very subjective question.
You can choose to answer as you like.
It's not as close as I would prefer. I email and support that. Tell us one more time. No. It's okay. Oh, I missed that one. That's
How are you?
Good afternoon, Donna. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let's call today's Board of Trustees meeting to order at 4 p.m. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Speak.
Present.
Here. Back to me. Present. Donnelly. Eastbound. Sheets.
Here.
Steiner. Here. Swanson.
Here. Here. Thank you. And if we please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minister Little, would you please read the mission statement?
Laketran is committed to providing quality public transportation services to all Lake County residents, with special emphasis on meeting the transportation needs of seniors and people.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any public comments or today? Do we have a podium?
No, but I gave him a mic. The podium's
Okay.
in the back.
Can you hear me? Yeah, absolutely. If you could please just say your name and address for the record, and if you could keep your comments no longer than 5 minutes, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's Brian Massey, 8196 Ringgold Drive, on behalf of Lobbyists for Citizens. I was at a commissioners meeting last week, I believe it was, and I picked up a resolution talking about an agreement with the Job and Family Services and Laketran for $638,750. I didn't hear any details from the commissioners on it, so I'm just wondering, is this, Ned had mentioned prior to the meeting, this is an annual reimbursement. Are there any numbers behind this? How many trips does 638,000 buy us?
Sure. Ben, would you be able to answer some of those questions, please?
Sure. I don't have the number of trips that buys. Matt, if you could take a look at that real quick. But that agreement is it's for net transportation through JFS, which net is non-emergency transportation. So it's for folks that qualify for Medicaid to take them to medical appointments in and around Lake County. So if a person is qualified for Medicaid, they can call us to book a trip. We then call Lake County JFS, confirm they're eligible and that the trip is eligible. And then those are Medicaid dollars that ultimately come from the state and the federal government that then pay the per trip cost for each of those individuals taking the trips. I want to say it's I can't remember if it's $36 or $37 a trip, but 35. Okay, Lisa's correcting me. So it's a $35 a trip. So that's the amount they approve is a not to exceed. So it doesn't necessarily equal that total every year. It's usually a little bit less.
It says a premium service. Is this different than the services that we're providing to all of the other Lake County residents?
Yes, these folks can go to different destinations outside Lake County if JFS deems the trip to be appropriate. They also get special reservation services from us where the customer service reps call them personally and confirm trips the day before and do a little bit more than the average public gets access to. They also have a little bit of a different booking kind of window and process where we take care of all the administrative overhead for getting their trips approved by JFS in advance.
So this is already, this amount has been planned in your budget already. This is not new money for you, is that correct?
That's correct. I can't remember what year of this agreement this is. This is around the 10th year of us doing this though. So we've done, it actually might be longer than that, but we've done this for quite a long time with Lake County JFS, but the contract is renewed on an annual basis with the commissioners.
I see. One other question, if I may. I just received the financial statement package. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. It says that your unrestricted net position, meaning your excess of assets over your liabilities for April 2023, $59 million. April of 2022 was $44 million. So that's about a 33% increase in 1 year.
Yeah, I believe the financial statements are accurate. I would have to ask Lisa if she can, how the federal grant money comes in and out is likely the reason that change occurred. We pay for everything up front and then get reimbursed. So it's, yeah.
Just a general question. We need $59 million.
That's probably a little higher than normal. We still have $22 million in there that came to us in the pandemic that we didn't ask for, that came to us by formula, that is a component of that money. I would probably say we didn't need that, but the federal government gave it to us without us asking. So
yeah, the 22 million rings a bell with me because that's the amount that you take in each year from the sales tax. Is that correct? $22.5 million.
It varies, but it's probably close. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
May I just make a statement real quick?
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure everyone understood that the Medicaid dollars are for medical trip purposes for people under Medicaid. Because you made a statement then that service would be able to different. But it's Medicaid rules that make it such. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the trips have to be for a medical purpose. And those are approved by JFS. So what the criteria are for them is up to JFS, but they are of a medical nature.
I just wanted to make sure that was real clear on what was going to mean, why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNamee. And Mr. Massey, one thing I do want to just let you know is you spoke at a meeting several months ago about sales tax. And at that time, the board asked our legal counsel, Mr. Dines, who's not able to be with us today, but his partners filling in. We asked Mr. Dines to look into that. He reached out to the Ohio Attorney General at the time. And the Ohio Attorney General's response was, it's most appropriate for you to correspond with the Ohio Department of Taxation. Mr. Dines has sent correspondence over the Ohio Department of Taxation. He had not heard anything back at this time. When we do hear something back, I'm sure we'll need discussion on that. And I'd like to just give you that update to know that when you do speak, your thoughts and comments are what's interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much. I appreciate the transparency.
Absolutely. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. At this time, is there a motion to approve the Laketran Board of Trustees special meeting minutes of May 18th, 2023? Motion made by Mr. Zibble. Is there a second?
Okay.
Seconded by Ms. McNamee. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Okay.
See.
Back to me. Yes. Sheets.
Yeah.
Stanger. Abstain. Swanson.
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the Laketran Board of Trustees board meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2023?
So made.
Motion made by Mr. Zebel. Is there seconded by Ms. McNamee? Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yeah.
Sheets,
Yes.
Stanger. Yes. Watson,
Yes.
Zebel.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Lisa to talk about the April 2023 financials.
So, the financials are for April, it is year to date, and our operating revenues, through the end of April are approximately 10.5 million. And again, I will highlight, if we compare it to 2022, which we had more revenue that was due to grant monies for the pandemic. Total operating expenses year to date is about 6.85 million. So we are slightly above where we were in 2022. And our capital expenses, approximately our local portion share, is about 625,000. Bringing us with an income of about 3 million, less our transportation expenses. Net income almost 1.1 million. And this kind of breaks it out just a little bit more on what the revenue between fares and miscellaneous sales tax and federal and state. And you obviously, if we look at that federal and state number for 2023, we're at about 1.4 million, where if you look at 2022, we're at about 4.1 million. And again, that is the pandemic, receiving the mail and such as pandemic grants. The last year for receiving those pandemic grants was in 2022, but we did not receive all the pandemic money in 2022. It was in 2021 and 2022. And so when you look at those percentages, so like fares and miscellaneous at like 11.3% and 74.9% for sales tax and 13.8% for federal and state for our actuals for 23, those are more realistic to the pre-pandemic times when you compare it to 2022, 6.7% versus 59% for sales tax, 34.3%. Kind of threw us out there for a couple of years, but I would say that this is much closer to the pre-pandemic times as far as the percentage of how you're running it. We go down to our expenses, obviously, our service industry strategies benefits are going to be higher. And so far, this kind of breaks out into detail for you what our expenses are year to date for April, with our wages and benefits being the highest, of course. The rest totaling 6.842. And so far, our cash balance, we have a total cash at the end of April of around 57.3 million. We maintain a minimum operating balance that were passed years ago to maintain for our operating expenses, and our grant and capital commitments at about 25 million, leaving us unencumbered cash balance of closer to 95. And that's
Can I interrupt? Sure. I'm still uncomfortable. I think it's misleading. The reason I think it's misleading. Capital commitments. Yeah. Big part of it, about half of that, even more, has not been provided for. So it's not a commitment. There is no allowance for income. So this $25 million, everybody will spend goes out through 2027, but we're not showing any income to that. So, you know, I think we're way understating this unencumbered cash. If you look at what we've talked about over the next 3 or 4 years, there's $2 million in buses for SDS. We haven't talked about whether we're going to do that or not. There's $4 million in signs and shelters. We haven't done that. There's $8 million more in the building. Where'd that come from? We're spending $22 million on the building today. There's another $8 million in the next 3 or 4 years. I just find this very misleading, and that unencumbered cash if you just go back through this and take the numbers that we talked about that have no grant action, if you paid full credit, that's somewhere around $12 or $13 million. So you add all that back up, that's a very different number than $24 million. I really think we need to change the way this is presented because it's tremendously understating our cash position on this.
So, Mr. Thompson, it sounds like your request or your theory would be that instead of saying granted capital commitments, because I see what you're saying, if you look at the spreadsheet, that the local share is 100% on all projects in the future, and we're paying 100% of that with no federal dollars. It almost sounds like what there should be is total cash minimum operating balance, and then board approved commitments, board approved grant projects, something along those lines to get to the cash, or not necessarily.
Well, the difficulty is it becomes quite in terms of differentiating out what we've approved versus what we haven't approved, what we've discussed versus what we haven't discussed. It becomes pretty complicated, I think. So I don't exactly have an answer for you. I just know that's not the answer.
Well, the board does approve the capital plan as part of the budget. And so,
2027.
yeah, the capital plan, well, Lisa's shaking her head, maybe I was incorrect. But we provide the capital plan to everybody.
Provided as a plan, when we pass the budget, they pass the current year.
Okay.
So like for 2023, when they gave us the budget, we gave us a budget for that. We kind of gave a plan of what we kind of expected or knew at that time to go forward.
So I mean, we could, we do our best to give you what we know of, and we included, the reason that it shows up, and again, this report is for the board, so we can always change it. But we try to put in what we anticipate needing to do, and until we have a grant for it, we put it at 100%. But we could separate that out differently. This is essentially what you and I emailed about not that long ago. So I'm happy to adjust it to reflect what you want, but kind of to your point is the quagmire issue. We'll take a look at it and see how we can make it include all those complexities, but try and simplify the total number.
Well, if you take the finances in total, the numbers are in there, right? And this, as I understand it, what we were trying to do, pull out just a snapshot that said, okay, look, this is sort of top line where we're at. This is what we expect over the next years. But it's not. I don't think it's doing that because it's not giving any credit for potential in terms of grants, and it certainly is not giving any value for income. That's I think. So somewhere here we've got to find it. I think we have to find it. I think this just tremendously understates what our cash, number of cash really is.
In terms of income, are you referencing the sales tax?
No, I'm just talking about what we're showing is income, net income up from operations.
Would you, I guess it's just an opinion, when we think about how to display future grant income, would putting what we have gotten in the past be acceptable? Or that's where it gets really difficult for us, because I don't want to project grant income that we think we might get and then not get it and have you say, hey, you thought this was going to be paid for, now it's not. So I don't, what would be the way the board would like to see that type of information?
I'm just complaining. I don't have an answer.
Well, I'm trying to be a problem solver, so.
Like I said, it becomes a quagmire.
Okay.
I haven't worked my way all the way through it. I'm just uncomfortable the way it's presented at this point.
Okay.
I think it's just takes a bit of take, trying to come up with something that works.
Okay.
A little bit more accurate. I do not know exactly how to get at it, so I'm making it a very complicated process.
Yeah, and a lot of you'd almost need like a flow chart. Like if this happens, then this is what it is. If this happens, and that's not practical for a.
No, but I think the general premise is correct though, because 2025, 26, and 27 is showing no local funding. So we wouldn't no federal funding, which would make it very difficult for the agency to do these projects with absolutely no fund. So it probably is an overstated number of great capital commitments at this time. So I do think we should work on retooling this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we can, my thought process at the moment is to put a column that says like staff estimated grant revenue or something. That is what we realistically could think we could get, as long as, you know, it's not going to be a hold us to that number later kind of situation. But we can estimate usually somewhat accurately.
Well, again, I come back to what I understood this number was supposed to be for, it's just sort of a snapshot, you know. So I'm not. I think it would be a mistake for us to somehow try to make it more complicated. We just end up with another statement that nobody basically attention to, or understands. The idea here was a simple snapshot of where we're at. This is what we've got in the bank right now, this is what we think we're going to be spending, and this is what's going to be available. It's the commitment area versus what we've agreed to versus what may or may not happen. That, for me, sort of balls over the works. So well, it's inaccurate.
We will, we'll take a look at all the numbers together again and see if we can put it in some other way that helps make it a little bit more sense, and see what, you know, we'll keep trying and see if there's a format that we land on that you guys like. Guys and gals, I should say.
So, we do supply, I don't have it on this particular. We do supply the detail, and as you guys were talking, I kind of just did a backhand estimate. And I think part of it is a lot of, in most grants, and I'm not gonna say every grant, because it has varied, but the majority of grants, if you apply and get awarded, they're usually 80 federal, 20 local. So at least half of what we have listed on this sheet that Andre does, at least half of that, so we'll say around 13 million-ish is the 80-20. So I would say 13 of that 25 would be, if we just estimated that it was all gonna be the 80-20. And out of that number, because we're doing the construction in that, if we look at that sheet, all the prior years, which are obligated and committed to, and the current year, 2023, that comes up to about 7.3 million. So 7.3 million of that has been approved and obligated. And the difference between, let's say, the 13 million and the 7.3 is estimated at 80-20 if the board hasn't, because those will be like little things like your buses and different things that we probably will get approved and get funded. So that's pretty secure because we have a plan to replace certain number of buses each year, and maybe some of that other extra stuff that they have in there that they're estimating they're going to do, but they don't know, they put in at 100%. But if I took all that out and backed it out, I would say, and don't hold me to this, this is just an approximate number as I'm going through. At that number at 25, if we did it that way, would probably be a little closer to about 18.5. So that would be estimating that we would apply for these grants, we would get them approved, and it would be at 80-20 for everything that's listed on here. Because what the reality is, some of these things in the future, they may apply, we might not get any funding, we decide that, well, we didn't get any funding, so we'll try a different source or try another way or move it to a different year. Because when we talked about the building, there were a lot of years that it got pushed, then we put it in. So that is the possibility. But just based on what we have here, trying to be, you know, communicating what the projects are going forward. If we were to estimate everything in 80-20, I think that number then would be a little bit closer at 18.5. But of course, the board doesn't approve anything past the current year, it's just the plan going forward. I'm not sure if that helps or not, but I just thought I'd throw that out there as a, for your information and thought to think how you want to do it going forward.
Makes sense. To just explain that process would make more sense to me in terms of visualizing the closer numbers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so that would, we drop the commitments to, from 25 to 18, but another 7 in the hopper or something.
Right, and I could put a little note down at the bottom and just put like a little asterisk to kind of keep it fresh in everybody's minds that this is based on all future, yes, the current year would be based on an 80-20 split with the federal government. And there may be some things that they, you may apply for and say you really, really need, and they won't give you a grant for it, that there may come to fruition, the board may have to pay it at 100%. But just based on that as an estimate going forward, that would probably be, in my opinion, the fairest way. And to be as close to accurate as you could get, but it's still a plan.
Understood.
Okay. So you let me know, or Ben know, or whoever.
Yeah, we'll have it. We'll at least start with what Lisa just described for next month. We'll see how it shakes out, and again, the reports are for everybody here. So if we want them different, not a big deal.
It's just a tool.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you earlier said through one of the payments from the federal government, we got $23 million above beyond what we were totally expecting? We're about where we at with that.
Yeah.
The money that came through all the COVID.
Yeah, I mean, there were 3 different grants that we got during COVID from the federal government from the 3 different stimulus acts that were passed in the different legislatures.
Right.
That totaled, I don't remember the exact number, but it was right around $22 million. So that money has been received. It's sort of over and done with. It's in the cash balance, but it's done other than that.
So in my mind, then, if we had not received those, because none of those were in our financial planning aspects for years previous to today,
That's correct.
that number would actually be closer to 0 as it's being presented here today.
As it's being presented today, yes.
So, from my standpoint, is we never knew it was coming. We never had any chance really to prepare for how it was going to be spent or where it was going to be spent. Now we know we have it, so there's some planning that needs to be done this time. Where would we spend the money if we had it? If we have it, where would we have the opportunity to spend the money? Buses, provide expansion of those expansion services, whatever we want to try to do. We haven't even talked about any of that yet either, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, the point is, we'd almost have, that'd almost be 0 if we hadn't received that grant.
Yes.
And it's money we're likely to never see again.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip the slides since we've had a long conversation on the grants, because we've already discussed that. You guys have the detail, the board does in the packet with that. So this is the STS portion. Our total revenues year to date is around 30,000. Our expenses are about 75, so we have a loss on the 45,000. Again, we talked about this, the rates on this were increased sometime around the end of May. So we should see a little bit of an increase in that revenue next month, and then in June, we should see it increase a little bit more. We did have some contracts that we were obligated to that that we could not increase the rates on those as of yet. So I think over the rest of this year into next year, you'll see that revenue kind of grow based on those increases in the revenue streams. And then again, we have it broken out by detail. STS, obviously, the revenue is on the fares that, the services that we provide, a little bit of miscellaneous revenues, the interest. But again, service industry, wages and benefits are going to be your highest. Services, supplies, and insurance, you're going to seem a little bit higher than, in percentage wise compared to our normal operating budget for Laketran, and that's just due to being a fixed asset. So you're obligated to that under your services, not like insurance, rental. Yeah. But all in all, through April, nothing extraordinary, nothing stands out as, above and beyond normal. I also will highlight some of the new, services that you put into place will be, they've obviously already taken place, but they'll show up more on the financial statement. For all those extra things, probably just a little bit, so it'll take a little gradual time in June, and you'll see it pick up quick. Oh, sorry, so is there any questions that I can answer?
Seeing no questions for Lisa, is there a motion to approve the April 2023 operating and FTS financial statements subject to audit and capital plan review? Motion made by Ms. Singer, seconded by Ms. McNamee. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Duffy,
Yes.
Maxine,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Stanger. Yes. Swanson,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes. Thank you. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Ben.
All right, item 8B is a motion to ratify the collective bargaining agreement between Laketran and the United Automobile, Aerospace, and Agricultural Implement Workers of America, Local 1834. This is for 23, 24, and 25. As the board knows, we've been talking about this for quite a while, so this is just sort of a reminder where we're at with the schedule. We've been talking about this for since October of last year. Everything went sort of as we were planning. The union voted on June 5th to approve the agreement. And so everyone received a copy of that via email before the meeting. And everything is in order for the board to take action with everything we've discussed in the past tonight. So I didn't get any feedback on the agreement via email or anything like that. It has been fully approved by legal. You all should have seen a copy of the letter with the agreement in your email from Mr. Hicks. So we are basically in a good spot with the agreement and ready to approve it tonight. Does anyone have any questions or anything like that?
I still can't get over the 7%. I think that's way too much for the first year. 7, 3, and 3.5. That's
Are there any other questions or comments? At this time, is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-014, ratifying the collective bargaining agreement between Laketran and the United Automobile, Aerospace, and Agricultural Implement Workers of America, Local 1834, beginning October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2026, approving pay increases for all hourly employees in 2023, 2024, and 2025.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Stanger. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Duffy,
Yes.
Maxine,
Yes.
Sheets,
No.
Stanger. Yes. Swanson,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Ben, or no, I think we're gonna talk about grant for this time.
So good evening. The next three agenda items are routine for the board. We do these annually or as required. But I can transit administration. So because we have a lot of agenda items tonight, I'm only going to be asking for questions. I do have a slide presentation for each one if you'd like me to go through it. But this first motion is just authorizing Laketran to apply for grants at the federal level. We do this annually, and this provides a lot of the grant funding that we were just talking about with the capital plan. So if there's any questions, all the information is in your packet. We haven't talked about it.
I did ask Andrea to kind of go quick through these since these are routine for the board. So you wonder why she's just doing it this format. That was me trying to keep the meeting going quick. So.
Okay, so are there any questions on this? Seeing none, I will now occupy a very long time reading this one. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-015 authorizing the filing of applications with the Federal Transit Administration for federal fiscal year 2024 and operating administration of the United States Department of Transportation for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 USC Chapter 53, Title 23 of the United States Code and other federal statutes administered by the Federal Transit Administration, including Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency for Cleveland Urbanized Area Federal Transit Administration funding from the Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program, Section 53 times. Is there a motion? Motion made by Ms. McNamee, is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Siddle. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Stanger. Yes. Swanson.
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so the next motion is for Laketran's public transportation agent being required to be updated and approved annually. The PMS plan was uploaded to Govenda and other information.
Any questions?
I did have a question about this one.
Yes.
In looking at the briefing paper, how do you get like 0.2 of like something like safety event or an accident? How does it end up being like actual numbers?
Correct, so it is a rolling average of the previous 5 years of data. So in some years, there were probably no safety events, which is why it's less than a whole number.
Got it. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-016 approving Laketran's public transportation agency safety plan in accordance with Title 49 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 673? Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Singer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. McNamee. Trudy, you can please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sheets.
Yes.
Stanger.
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we'll say the last thing is Title 6.
So the board previously approved Laketran's Title VI plan in January, but we had to update it to include our new friends at Jogga Transit. So it includes Jogga County. In the plan, again, the plan was uploaded to Govenda and the pertinent information is in the board cabinet. Happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve the resolution 2023-017 adopting Laketran's Title VI program?
So made.
Motion made by Mr. Zibble. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sanger. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Sheets.
Yes.
Stanger.
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes. Okay, excellent. Ben, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you to talk about the purchase of 8 propane dialyzer buses.
All right, so this is a semi-routine item. This is replacement of dial-a-ride buses. Our last full contract was awarded a couple years ago. We have 4 different types of buses that we can buy off the contract, so it's kind of like a menu where we say what type of bus we want this time. The bus we buy most commonly is what we call bus 2. That is our sort of standard propane dial-a-ride bus. We try to replace a portion of the fleet every year to kind of keep them rotating in and out. This is for buses that we purchased in 2017. So by the time these are delivered, the buses they're replacing will be about 7 years old and have about 250,000 miles on them. These will be the. I have a picture of the. I know I say it can be difficult to think about which bus is which bus, but this is the bus we have the most of. This is the bus our customers prefer the best. I know Don and I have talked in the past about some of the other buses not riding as well, so this is the bus that rides a little bit better. And we sort of just call this the traditional dial-a-ride bus. So it's a copy of this. Nothing particularly remarkable or different from previous buses in the order. The request tonight is for 8 buses at a total of 1.4 million. These are funded at 80% by CMAQ. CMAQ is congestion mitigation air quality funds, and then local share is $280,000. So yeah, so it's just replacing buses. Right now, they're taking an estimated about a year to get here. Could be slightly longer. The last set of buses we ordered in August of last year, and they are the mechanics or maintenance was in the factory once for inspections, and will be back for the final inspection at the end of July. So right now they're tracking about a year. These may be a little bit longer because these leave the bus factory and then go to the propane upfitter. So there's a second step that could make them take a little bit longer, but production lead times have kind of come down a little bit from COVID peak. So we're expecting about a year. Questions?
Yeah, so I can't. Couple.
Sure.
Can't resist. So we're getting about 250,000 miles out of the buses, is that right?
So usually about how much they go. The mileage per bus has been going up the last 2 years.
About 7 years.
Ish, yeah.
So I called Tesco. I just was very curious.
Yeah.
I said, how long do these buses normally last? And they said 5 years and 150,000 miles. So you guys are doing a good job. Have you seen over the course of, if you're going past what they call the norm of 150,000 in 5 years, do you see a big drop off or an increase in the maintenance? I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah, depending on the bus, yes. I shouldn't say every bus, yes, has that point where it kind of falls off a cliff. Different buses reach that at different times. For a bus like this, for us, it's usually around 7 years, 250,000 miles. That's when you really start to see body problems and more labor-intensive component repairs like floors and some other things that just aren't worth tearing into for maintenance. These are 7 years, 250,000 miles. Some of the bigger buses are longer. The bigger buses right at 12 years when they're supposed to be replaced, they're falling apart. The MCIs are usually a little better. Their life is 12 years, 500,000 miles. We can pretty safely get 15 years out of those. So there's some variation. These, I would say, I'm looking at Keith to confirm, we're very comfortable with these at 7 years, 250,000 miles. When you get into 280, you start to see things like transmissions going that when you have that many miles on the bus, it's not cost effective to replace. And then you just sort of, they nickel and dime you to death. So 7 years, 250 is a good place for these. Some of the vans are a little bit less than that just because they're not quite as heavy duty, but there is that break-even point for every vehicle. Or not break-even, but kind of cliff.
Well, I'd just like to know that you guys are exceeding what Tesco was talking about. And congratulations, you've done a great job.
Thanks, people. Great maintenance, folks. Of the propane buses? Keith, help me out. How many propane of the fleet total? 60? Okay, 60.
8 on 7.
Yeah. That's usually where we try and keep the annual replacement in that 7-year sort of rotation best we can.
It's a good way to keep it flat line on the expenses.
Yeah, we try to keep it, you don't want to replace a huge number of every year because then they all have problems at the same time. So keeping a good rotation also keeps guys, they got some buses in warranty and they got some that have more issues, but it keeps it sort of even.
I was just curious, you had mentioned earlier where we spend money on phone buses and you reimburse. Can you see that in the grant? How long does it take for us to get that money? See that once we pay the expenditure?
Usually doesn't take too long. Once the buses are here, we've paid the invoice and we have proof the invoice is paid. Lisa submits a reimbursement request to the feds and it's usually within 3 days or so. It's pretty quick.
Any other questions for Ben? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-018, authorizing the CEO or his designee to purchase 8 propane dial-line buses from Tesco at a cost not to exceed $1,400,000? Motion made by Ms. McNamee, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Little. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Yes.
Maxine,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Dana. Yes. Swanson.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the next item on our agenda is updates to Laketran policy.
Good evening, everybody. Again, in the spirit of keeping us moving along. Our policy manual was last updated in 2021, but now we have our friends with Geauga Transit, so we needed to make another update. In the briefing packet, I included this table. Also updated in the documents section, 2 exhibits, one with a draft of our current policy, and exhibit A is a draft of all the pages, so you can refer to both of those. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but in the spirit of moving us along, I'd like to recommend approval of the resolution authorizing any updates that we have to the policy manual as described in the briefing paper.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Emily?
There will be, just so everyone, and I'll mention this, I guess, the 6-month look ahead, but there will be another update probably in October. Once we get all the CBA changes taken care of, so.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-019, authorizing the CEO or his designee to update the Laketran policy manual? Motion made by Ms. Singer, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zibble. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Yes.
Maxine,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Stanger. Yes. Swanson.
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben. I'll turn this over to you first to talk about a four-post vehicle lift.
Yeah, so this is our the board's first action item for Geauga. I'll let Joanna explain the details of the purchase, but I thought it was important to explain why it was on the board's agenda. So the Geauga Transit actually had this approved by the commissioner's office previously, but the contract and the fulfillment of the lift won't happen before the transition date. So the commissioners essentially want us to do the purchase. So they've already been through a procurement process. Technically, it was already once approved by the Geauga County Commissioners, but because the lift won't be delivered and payment won't be made until after July 1st, it's on the board's agenda just to kind of make us the responsible entity. But they did follow all the ODOT procurement processes and we've reviewed it. So we're not concerned about it at all, but that's why it's here before you today. So I'll let Joanna sort of explain anything else.
And before we move on to that, I just want to question very quickly. I think it's probably worth a clarification point, but although this board is approving the expenditure, that these monies are coming from segregated Geauga County, Geauga Transit bank account.
Yes, so these will come out of quote our Geauga bank account. On this slide here, we have the actual funding breakdown. So ODOT is granting $33,754, and then Geauga Transit is taking care of the local share of $1,157.71, and that is all Geauga grant and Geauga local dollars. It doesn't have anything to do with, it's not out of Laketran's budget in any way, but this board is still the sort of authorizing authority. So,
Thank you.
With the cost being down to the penny, assuming that's the as-bid cost and there's no additional costs or anything else that you would ever encounter, something like that.
Correct, that was the good we got to have like the installed, so, and that's why it's happening, I think, because that's what they gave us as a quote, that was what it is. We wanted to offer new purchasing agreement, and that, as you can see, was about $3 and so we talked to all of them actually, but this is to get done, I mean, we can do just $70.
Not get caught short of it. Didn't you see it was,
No, that's the to the penny is the dollar amount we have, looking for always.
I'll let Joanna take it away with any other information she'd like to.
Any other questions on that?
And we are, if you notice, we're trying very hard. The all of our resolutions now will say in the top line if it's for Geauga or Laketran or both. And then we're trying to make it very obvious when it's one or the other. So we have different slides communicate to the board, hey, this is one or the other. We're trying to make sure it's very obvious that there is a delineation and sort of a separation. So.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-020, authorizing the CEO or his designee to enter a contract with Laketran to purchase a four-post vehicle lift system at a cost not to exceed $34,911.71. Motion made by Ms. McNamee, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zibble. Trudy, if you could please call the roll.
Okay,
Yes.
Maxine,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Stanger.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Zimmer.
Yes. Okay, that's great. I will now turn it over to Ben for a combined 6-month look ahead / CEO report.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder that July is our off month this month. So no board meeting. We'll all still be in the office though, if you want to meet with us or have lunch or anything. In August, we have a bus advertising contract. Nothing new on that one. We've talked about a couple times. This will include Geauga Transit. Snow plowing, we go out to bid every 3 to 5 years for snow plowing. Like we talked about before, normally we spend around $103,000, $105,000 on snow plowing. With Geauga in here, we'll probably be closer to 120, but we'll actually go through the bids and get low price on that one here soon. In August, we'll have our first expansion vehicles. These will be the minivans that we've talked about a couple times. Very excited about this. One thing that's interesting is we've been doing our research and getting our kind of everything together for this. Trapeze had a dramatic increase in the cost of Rangers. And so these are going to be our vehicles where we test not using Rangers. And so it just supports our decision to back away from those. They're now $5,200 a piece. They were $2,800 the last time we bought them. So I don't know what the person at Trapeze is thinking. That is a kind of a crazy price increase, but we are going to test tablets and see how they work so that hopefully we can be using tablets in the future and not Rangers. This will be the first kind of go around of that, but just supports our decision making there because of the cost. September, I know I don't want to steal any of Brian's thunder, but I thought I'd put it on here. I know there is some discussion about a strategic planning retreat. I won't say anything else than that. We will have the audit review. And again, as in years past, I suspect the auditor will have a separate sort of conference call for all the board members if they're interested in the audit closeout before it comes to the board agenda. In October, we will have another policy manual update as a result of the collective bargaining agreement. Probably nothing major there, just some stuff to be included with that after now that it's been approved. November, we'll have the budget presentation. This will include Laketran operating, our capital and capital plan, STS, and Geauga Transit. So November will be a budget heavy month. I'll probably try and keep some action items minimized in November so we have plenty of time to talk budget. Fuel contract will be in November also. This will include, this is for gas and diesel for us and Geauga. Our propane agreement is a separate contract. December, we'll have the budget approval. January, we will have landscaping. This is for all of our sites that are not headquarters. It also does not include Geauga Transit as they do landscaping with their in-house personnel. So this is just for places like Wickliffe, Menor, the mall, Madison, and those types of things. We'll have an update to the EEO plan by Emily also. And so that is kind of what we're looking at for the next 6 months. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything?
In August, will there be, IT strategic plan?
Yes, I'm sorry. I probably should have. Yes, I probably should have put that on here. I didn't think of it because it's not an action item, but yes, the IT strategic plan consultants will be here in August to give the board a full update on the complete IT plan. You should have a draft of it before that, but they will be here in person to present that to everybody. Sorry, I forgot that. Any other quick?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the difference between the Ranger and tablet.
Sure.
Do you have a sense that you're giving up any capability?
That's one of the things we're going to be evaluating. One of the big things, the tablet can't do fixed route. So it can't be put on a fixed route bus because of all the components that plug into it for passenger counters and stuff. So we have to use Rangers on fixed route buses, but we don't have to use them for dial ride buses. And at a cursory review, it looks like we'll actually gain some features. Mainly, right now, Trapeze uses a proprietary map that we have to update every couple years. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It's not as accurate. Or a tablet can use Google Maps, which is, I mean, everyone knows how to use Google Maps. So we think we'll get some actually additional features. Our main concern is a Ranger does last 10 to 12 years. It's a very robust piece of electronic equipment that has a really long life. The tablets won't last that long, but even if we have to replace them 3 or 4 times, they're still going to be cheaper than the Rangers. So right now, I don't think we're going to lose any features, but it's going to be part of our testing process to make sure we don't lose any. I think our big concern is they're just not as long life device. And you all know if you have 2 different phones, they're slightly different. There's slightly different software versions on them. So we're looking at how we kind of correct and manage that across 100 tablets. So we're a little concerned about it, but I think it'll actually be better in the end.
Are you going to do a pilot project?
Yes, the minivans will be the pilot. So
With the tab?
Yes, yeah, the minivans will be a pilot in a lot of ways. It'll be a new vehicle type, but it'll also have a tablet on it instead of a Ranger. So that'll be our real good test. Because we also, since the minivans are expansion, if we wanted to buy expansion tablets, or non-tablets, it'd be $5,200 a bus. I'd rather test a $300 tablet. And if they don't work, we could go back to Rangers, but the risk is much lower to try the tablets in the expansion mode than in just assuming we should buy a Ranger.
How many will it be?
10. Yeah, so in theory, we're going to spend $3,000 on tablets versus $52,000 on Rangers. So, a $3,000 test, at least in my opinion, compared to a $50,000 expense, is well worth it to see if it works. And we've been testing it in the back office, and it won't be going into completely blind. But we do think it should be a lot better.
How much, in terms of the tablets, how much of the programming for the Trapeze versus going in-house?
I mean, the tablets and the Rangers are both a piece of hardware that Trapeze puts and us put software on. So
Right.
they're different. It probably will be a similar level of effort. Rangers take a lot of effort to get them right, but once they're right, they just work. But it can take a long time to get them right. Tablets are probably going to be a lot more ongoing effort because there's a lot more updates, because when Android pushes an update, that's not up to us. All the Rangers are strictly within our control. But an Android update is much more seamless and easy to manage than an actual Ranger update. So we expect it to be similar levels of effort, but at different sort of paces.
And will that, Andrew, will that be done on Trapeze or have you got that for you?
So the Trapeze software is not something that's in like the Google Play Store. It has to be loaded onto the tablet through a separate process. So it's not as simple as clicking your smartphone and getting an app. So it's a little more labor intensive than a regular app on a phone, but it's less intensive than getting the Ranger programming right. So, and that is done in-house. We buy the tablets from the, wherever Best Buy, and then we put the software onto them. Our employees do, and Trapeze supports us, but we ultimately have to sit with the tablet and do that ourselves.
How is the tablet mounted in the vehicle so that, you're not, a driver's not holding the tablet in their lap while, the Rangers are mounted in the bus at a certain, so the driver's not, they're just looking down at it or looking at it, typing in it, whatever. How will the tablets be mounted in the vehicle to maintain, the appropriate safety?
Yeah, I don't know what the actual product is we're going to use yet, but they will be mounted in the bus. It won't be floating around out there for the drivers to put where they want. So it'll likely have a similar mounting system that the Ranger uses. RAM is the company that does that. So it'll probably be very similar to that. We don't know the exact model yet of that product, but it will be hard mounted into the vehicle.
It's the software on the tablets similar to the software of the Rangers.
It's more updated, so it's a little newer. The current version of Trapeze we use is a very old piece of software. The software on the Rangers is very old. It was first put onto ours in 2014. It was first designed long before that. So the tablets are a much more modern software. So it will require some training. We have had one or two in the building that we've already done initial testing on. So there are some drivers that have seen it and gotten a chance to play with it a little bit. So far the feedback has been positive. It's just slightly different, but it shouldn't be too bad. But it's newer and better, really. We are sort of, as part of this isn't quite the same topic, but it's similar. So we use a Trapeze product just called Trapeze Pass. So Pass is the actual product name for the software we use to schedule Dial-A-Ride with. Matt and his folks have been looking at the sort of modern equivalent of that. Pass is a very old piece of software. I know Lane has spent some time working with Tammy and looked at it, and I'm sure he could confirm it's a very old software. They have a new version that is web-based, which is a little better, which we think could actually save us around $50,000 a year in software fees. So we're in the evaluation process right now to see how that will go. We just started it recently though, so we don't have anything to report right now, but it could save us a good amount of money annually, assuming it can do all the same things that we use our existing software for. So it's kind of just the new version. So
We actually want those Rangers prior to 14, didn't we?
we've had more than one Ranger version in Laketran's history. The ones we have now were purchased in 2013 and installed in 2014. We have had 2 other Ranger versions, Keith. I'm looking at. Yeah. The current version we have is over the cell network and is a one single piece. The previous version was 2 physical pieces and it was over the county radio network. Those were very unreliable. A lot of lost sleep over those things.
I'm glad we're doing the pilot, if you will, with the mini ones, because those of us who lived through the switch, not only for the Rangers, but going from a DOS-based system to a Windows-based system. That was a total nightmare.
And that's some history there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you're calling about this.
Anybody have any questions about future meetings? All right. I'll roll right into my report then. I have a kind of cool, you all saw the headquarters project, but the construction camera we have has a time-lapse feature. So I thought I'd let y'all watch about a minute of what's going on.
What are we looking at here?
This is the new operations section of the building. And, most of what they've done is underground, so it's not particularly interesting at this point, but they are putting concrete in the ground for footings for steel, which should be going up here in about a week or 2.
So this is the foundation?
This is utilities. This is several months worth of work. So it doesn't look like a whole lot because all of it's been underground, and they dig a hole and then you see they fill it right back up. So when you drive past it, it doesn't look different every day, but they have been working this whole time. So here you can see, and where this will end, they're forming up for the foundations and the steel right here. So again, steel should be going up. Is it next week or is it the week after, Keith? Okay. So it should be the next 2 weeks. We should see steel going up, which will start to make it look a lot more like a regular building. When I get actual dates on when that's going to go up, I'll try and let the board know in case anyone wants to stop by and watch. So
What time period does this cover?
this covers last month and the month before. So it's about 2 months.
What section of the building are they looking at?
This is the part right out there by the parking lot. So this is the future operations section. Geauga County transition. So we continue to work through it. We've been having meetings on a regular basis. We have finished the new logo. A new logo is one thing, but I think what's really important is to acknowledge what we tried to do in having a different logo is to communicate that Geauga Transit is still very strongly a separate thing. You know, refreshing the brand a little bit just helps communicate to the community and everybody else that Geauga Transit is an independent organization from Laketran and is a separate thing. So the logo on the left is the new logo on the right is the old logo. We did talk about this. Joanna and I talked to the county commissioners just to let them know same thing. You know, the idea is to really reinforce to the community that it's even though Laketran might be operating it, it is still a different and separate thing. Schedule wise, we are on schedule. The board just voted on the last two procedural items here, Geauga Transit, and the official transition will happen next week, or is that this week still? But everything is going smooth. Joanna and her team have been doing great. They've been through a lot working on the switchover, but everything is moving along kind of as smoothly as it could be desired. To help communicate that split a little bit also, Andrea worked on today, so your packet doesn't look quite like this, but we tried to split Geauga Transit and Laketran grants into two different spreadsheets in the grant tracker. So with the amount of grants that showed up, it just got kind of overwhelming, and I thought it would help the board to have this segregated. This is the same information that's in your packet, it's just split out differently. The one thing that's not in your packet is the grant on the top of the Geauga page or section. ODOT put in a statewide request for vehicle replacements in the low-no grant category, and they included some Geauga Transit buses, which were fully funded. So ODOT is paying the local match for all the rural transit agencies out of what they call total development credits. So they pay the local share for rural agencies. They don't have to actually pay cash out of their bank for it. So these buses are, I wouldn't say free, but they are free to Geauga Transit. There'll be propane buses, so there'll be Geauga's first propane buses, and that grant does include some infrastructure for propane. So that was good news. That's for 6 buses. So those will be on the board's agenda in the future. Other than that, you can see all of our grants coming in like normal. So the cycle is sort of similar for both of us, where there's that one time a year where all the grants kind of hit. We put in our applications and we see how they kind of come out in the wash. So anybody have any questions about any of the grant stuff? All right, ridership is still doing really well. Ridership in May for Dial-A-Ride was up 17.9%. It's the single highest month of ridership we have seen since the pandemic. So that's significant to think about. At the same time, we have kept denials low. So the problems we had in October of last year are still, we have basically resolved those. It's the highest month of ridership we've had. And here's denials. You can see denials stayed down that entire time, which is a big deal that we were able to deliver that service without any sort of negative impacts. So going back to this, one of the other things we're going to do is I've tasked Matt with transitioning us to a monthly ridership report that is sort of a one-pager for the board packet that isn't the full ridership report that's on the website. And we're going to sort of, instead of me presenting this, I'm going to have Matt start presenting some ridership information, kind of like Lisa does in her financial report on an annual basis or on a monthly basis. So the big challenge we're going to run into eventually, which we've already been planning for, is we're going to have a vehicle crunch as we have hired lots of drivers. Having enough vehicles for them is going to be a little bit of an issue soon. So that's what those vans are on the agenda for. And that the IT plan was mentioned. I was going to mention it in here too. They will be here in August to present to the board. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
In regards to old business, update on rules and regulations. I believe that all is in Mr. Ryan's court at the moment. Is there any other old business in the room? Is there any new business in the room?
Consider trying to get somebody from Geauga County, as a board member, and not to replace anybody here, but actually increasing the size of the board to accommodate somebody specifically from Geauga County to represent their interests. Just throw it out, just think about it.
How does that work with how we're charging all of that type of stuff?
So it has to be a Lake County resident.
Yeah, the way that the charter, for lack of a better phrase, is, it states all board members have to be from Lake County, at least that's how it's set up with the commissioner. Now, we're talking like when there's now years, it's not current today, but I think it's a worthy point to explore, yes.
We did, the way the contract is spelled out, it sort of does protect their interests contractually. And when we talked to them about how it would be structured, we did say, our board was Lake County boards. And so they were aware of the current structure, not to say we couldn't change it, but when the deals were all struck, everybody was aware of the current structure. So if that makes a difference as part of your thought process.
You did say Joanna's going to attend those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, Joanna's going to be here as a department head in every board meeting, and she reports to me just like the rest of the directors. So that's something the board could. You may have to change to a bi-state or a bi. There's a different type of structure you could use, but we could do some research on it.
That's an interesting question. Any other new business in the room?
Do you want to go over the retreat at all?
No.
Okay.
Send out a message, a couple people reached out. But if we could save the date and September for the retreat, that'd be great. And if there's anything anyone would like to discuss, please reach out to me and we can talk about it for mobile and then talk about putting it on the agenda. Any other new business? Seeing none, at this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
Motion made by Mr. Plant, is there a second? Second by Ms. Sanger, sure, you can please call the roll.
Okay,
yes.
McAfee,
Yeah.
Sweets,
Yes.
Sanger,
Yes, Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 5:10.
Oh,
Then I didn't want to talk about it.
well, I didn't want to. I could have gone into. Thank you.